Okay, welcome everybody. This is the January 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission. And pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the Somerville Fair Housing Commission will be conducted via remote participation. We will have an audio recording available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. So I'd like to ask the commissioners for formal permission to call the meeting to order.
I'll call to order.
Patrice, agree?
Yep.
Janine? Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so the meeting is called to order. Our first item of business is to review the draft minutes from our meeting from December the 5th. And I'll note for the public, usually we meet towards the end of the month, like the last Thursday, I think. But because of holidays, it was more convenient to schedule and announce the meetings for these dates. Anyway, so do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minutes for the December meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll do two.
Okay. Patrice, is it okay if we have the vote?
Yep.
Yes. So all in favor?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So on to some of our standing agenda items. The Somerville Fair Housing Commission has a Facebook page. People who are interested can find it on Facebook by searching on Somerville Fair Housing Commission, all one word. Usually we post a question of the week on Fridays and another more news-related item on Mondays, and occasionally other items in between. Since our last meeting, the post that got the most attention was a fair housing question of the week. We know that there are certain kinds of questions a landlord cannot ask of a prospective tenant without violating the Fair Housing Act. So the question was, what kinds of questions can the landlord ask? And broadly speaking, those are relating to the ability to pay. And if it's happens to be an apartment that's reserved for people with disability or people in certain age groups, elderly and disabled, that kind of thing, then they can ask for verification of eligibility. But, very limited questions. So 114 people saw that post. Two liked, commented, reacted in some way, and 5 shared it with other people on Facebook. Another one that was fairly well attended was there was an article about a Black woman who was complaining, rightfully so, that she had made a bid on buying a property. There had been an inspection and an agreement. She'd made a down payment, and now the seller didn't want to sell to her because she is Black. And clearly that was a fair housing violation. So 103 people saw that post. I know one person commented and another person reacted to it, and 5 also shared it with other folks. So those are the most attended posts on Facebook since our last meeting. Questions or comments from the commissioners? Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to take it over to our able staff person, Shannon, and ask her about calls and complaints that have come in since the last commission meeting.
Yeah, so we had 1 complaint since the last commission meeting, which seems pretty consistent with December complaints for the past few years. This was, the protected class was family status, so they have a child under the age of 6. And the person said that they had several different real estate agents who stopped responding to them once they found out that they had a child under 6. And then they had a few over the phone and one in writing that told them that they do not rent to children under 6 because of the lead abatement issue, which is a really clear-cut fair housing discrimination issue. So I explained the process for filing an MCAD complaint. I said they can also file a HUD complaint and they can do it with me in the office if they want to. This was right before I went out on vacation. So they haven't come back in to do that yet. I also suggested that they call Suffolk Law Testing Program for the agents that ghosted them or just stopped responding once they found out they had a child under 6. And they said that they would probably do that. They were thinking more about whether or not they wanted to file an actual fair housing complaint with MCAD and HUD because they were a little bit afraid of retaliation, I believe. But I followed up with them today since I just got back in the office, so we'll see what they decided to do. And I'll try to check back in next meeting about that.
Commissioners, any thoughts, questions?
Just on behalf of real estate licensees of Massachusetts, that's abominable. I mean, the licensing law is incredibly clear, and the training that comes from anyone who has a license knows better than to do what we're hearing.
Yeah. I hope, well, yeah, it's up to them if they want to file a complaint, but it is really concerning, especially the one that put it in writing that they're not going to allow.
We don't rent to
them to
children,
do it.
right?
Yeah.
I've actually seen leases where lawyers have typed in a requirement that you have to notify the landlord if you're pregnant or if you intend to be pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
And it was typed in by an attorney. It's unbelievable.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah, people with kids have a very hard time.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the requirement of non-discrimination based on family status is not a new thing. And it's not just limited to Somerville, I believe. I believe it's a statewide.
It's a federal law too.
It is now a federal law. And well, it has been on the books for many years. So, you know, the people either are willfully ignorant or oblivious. Shannon, we often hear this come up in the context of concern about, oh, I'll have to de-lead my apartment. It'll cost a lot of money and so forth. Can you review the status of city assistance for de-leading?
Yeah, so they can be part of the HIP program, the home improvement program, because the like specific lead abatement program is now part of that. So if they are income qualified, so the household, at least 51% of the household, unless it's a 2-unit property, then only one of the units needs to be income qualified. They can apply for the assistance. And income qualified means that they're under 80% of the area median income. So it could be the owner, if the owner is living there, it could be the tenants. Yeah, so they can apply. Lead abatement is a top priority for the HIP program. So
you know, it's certainly a valid concern not to want to lead poison your tenants, but there's a great deal of assistance that people can get to make sure that they're neither providing lead nor discriminating.
yeah.
Other comments?
And area median income now is, does anybody know off the top of your head?
Well, it varies based on household size,
Right.
but 80% for one person household is 91,200.
Well, there'd be at least 2 if there's a child.
$104,200, and then for 3 it's $117,250. For 4 it's $130,250, and up and up.
Right. Okay.
So
it's pretty liberal. It's not like
Yeah.
area median income is $75,000.
Yeah,
And then
no,
we're
it's
doing 80% of that.
yeah, and if any owners are watching later, I would encourage you to reach out to Russell Cody for the HIP program. I think his email is rkoty@somervillema.gov. And then there's also a website, which I can. So the website is somervillema.gov/home improvement program.
And Shannon, just to clarify, it's not the income of the entire home, right? It's just the income of the unit that needs to be deletted. Is that correct?
So the whole property needs to qualify, but not every unit needs to be income qualified. So if there's 2 units, one of them needs to income qualify. If there's 3, then 2 need. It's 51% of the units need to be
Okay.
income qualified, except for a 2-unit building, in which case it's only 1.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's $7,500 per unit. And it's a 5-year forgivable loan. Yeah.
Okay, great. Unless there are other comments or questions for Shannon about that report, then okay. We'll stick with you, Shannon, because we want to hear about the annual reports, FY24 and FY23.
Yeah, so for FY24 report, Lisa and I started working on it. We're gathering some more information to see what we need to add to it. Like for instance, the proposed rule, well, the assessment of fair housing or affirmatively furthering fair housing rule. With the federal administration changes, we still need to look into what exactly is required right now. Including the assessment for assessment of fair housing. And we want to add some information about the housing bill, the increased funding for MCAD. Yeah, so that's what we've been looking at first. We also want to add some stuff about like the education and outreach. So tabling at Art B at Civic Day, in addition to the April is Fair Housing Month information that was included last time. Yeah, so that is what we have so far on the fiscal year 24 annual report. So we've just started working on it. And then for fiscal year 23 report, I think I mentioned last time that it's currently with the Housing Community Development Committee. So it's still with them. I do have an update on who are the counselors on that. So the chair is Kristen Strazo, and then it also has Counselor Klingon and Imba. And
Yeah.
it could change, yeah. Or
so just in case people aren't familiar, that is a committee of the Somerville City Council.
yes.
Yeah, thank you. Because at one point we were wondering, okay, we know at least currently we're required to compile this report, but then what happens? And you clarified that it does go to the city council for review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it already went to the city council and they sent it to this committee specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then last time they met was November 21st. I don't know when their next meeting is, but I believe that I'm supposed to be there to talk it over a little bit with them.
Great. Questions, comments for Shannon about the annual reports?
Well, fine.
Well, I'll just add one thing, which is, and I know Commissioner Rona was on the commission at this time. I think Commissioner Patrice, you might have been, but I can't remember exactly. Back in the previous Trump administration, they eliminated some of the requirements for the reporting on affirmatively furthering fair housing, and the city of Somerville continued to put together a report that included that. And at the time, the Fair Housing Commission, applauded that and sent, indicated to the mayor and the city council that we thought that should continue. In other words, as the municipal slogan says, Somerville leads the way. Okay, so if everybody is fine with that, there was one other continued business item, which was about clarifying how housing law applies to roommate situations. Shannon?
I think that Rona, well,
Yeah.
Oh,
Rona, do you
Rona's-
want to share or do you want me to?
If you have it in front of you, my computer
Let me
is
see if
not
I can
working.
pull it up.
Um,
One
thus
second.
thus
Let me
what
see if
I
I can
said
find
before we
it.
were recording.
Mm,
But in short, I talked to the legal counsel for the Greater Boston Real Estate Board, and that office responded to me with a comprehensive letter. Because I asked two questions. One was, we hear the term co-op housing to refer to multiple roommates living in the same space, which is very confusing because co-op is a different legal definition. But we're asking, what are the rules regarding roommate situations, and what are the rules regarding things that really are co-ops? And we got a very definitive, pretty clear answer, I thought. I could probably find it on my phone if you can't find it.
Yeah. Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Sorry.
Okay.
I think you sent it from your other email. Sorry, I was looking at the
Yeah,
wrong
sorry.
one. Okay. So they said that a federal court ruled that the Fair Housing Act does not apply to roommate decisions. Roommates cannot discriminate in advertisement, but they can have preference when making decisions. U.S. Court of Appeals Ninth Circuit in 2012 distinguished that, quote, the FHA is not intended to interfere with personal relationships inside the home. Holding that the FHA applies inside a home or apartment would allow the government to restrict our ability to choose roommates compatible with our lifestyles. This would be a serious invasion of privacy, autonomy, and security, end quote. However, housing providers are still covered by fair housing advertisement requirements. Don't discriminate. Additionally, shared tenancy best describes these roommate apartments. Shared tenancy occurs when the apartment is being rented by multiple tenants as roommates, with each tenant having equal rights and responsibilities under the lease. So it sounds like in advertisements, whether it's on Facebook or on a flyer that someone sticks up on a pole, they can't discriminate. But when it comes to making a decision, they're allowed to choose as roommates.
So for instance, even though I'm going to pick one, even though religion is a protected class and you could not advertise, let's say, Christian applicants only, the people who are in the household could say, well, part of the way our household works is that we celebrate all the Christian holidays, and somebody who is living with us, we want to do that, and that would not violate the Fair Housing Act as far as the attorney's opinion is concerned. Does that make sense?
That's what it
Yeah.
seems like from the email that they shared.
Okay.
Yeah. It seems like these roommate co-ops that aren't co-ops have a little more
Mhm.
freedom than actual co-ops.
Right.
The shared
Right.
tenancy situation.
Yeah.
Shared tenancy is a very different animal than what is being bantered around as co-op now. Because
Yeah.
co-op is a legal deeding of a property as a corporation. So you don't actually own your unit, you own a unit size share of the company
Right.
that runs the building. And they are held to all the fair housing rules. And there's been lots of lawsuits where co-ops have lost because of discrimination.
Well, thank you. That's,
Okay.
certainly a technical distinction that we were not completely on top of, and it's good to have the information. Looking around, unless anybody has further questions, comments, clarifications.
No.
I'm going to thank
And
Shannon.
I would just vote that nobody ever says co-op when they mean shared. What is it? Shared tenant? Is that the
Shared tenancy.
Shared tenancy.
tenancy?
Yeah.
Because I think it really is making a mess of how we talk about housing in Somerville.
So, okay, and thank you. So, the core of our commission's work is education around fair housing. And so our item number 4 on our agenda is future events for fair housing education. Who's in a position to report on this?
I
Well,
can, oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah,
I just
Patricia,
wanted
you
to
should
share a
start.
little bit, just to start. So I submitted the TAP application,
Mhm,
and we got the letter of support from Tom Galligani.
mhm.
And then I also asked the media team for Somerville, if fair housing events can be posted on Facebook, or the city's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Because I think that at least the Instagram, from what I see, has a
Mhm.
good amount of outreach. And they said, absolutely, definitely send it to them when the time comes. So we can maybe get a little bit more involvement that way too. But that's all I have to share for now.
Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Commissioners.
Patrice, you should go next.
Yeah.
So I have follow-up question for Shannon, and then like I'll lead into like what Rona and I have to report. So Shannon, in regards to the TAP application itself, were we asking for help with one particular event, or did we expand the scope of what we would like to do? And what was the conversation like?
So for the application, it was for all the April events that we have already planned. And it went over the ones that we've done in the past and just highlighted the low turnout. In terms of conversation, I'm not sure what you mean, sorry.
Oh, what I mean is that TAP applications, just disclosure, like I do work for MAPC, and I'm familiar with the TAP application process, and I have recused myself from certain parts, just to make sure everything is ethical. But I do know that like there is kind of conversation that can happen between persons who apply for the TAP application and when it's awarded out, and like and the person in charge of the TAP program, I think it's Gloria, if I believe correctly, and we'll talk to any awardees or ask additional questions about a TAP application in order to kind of like best what is needed, to best like serve like what is needed. So it may be more of a conversation going forward. You may be hearing from an MAPC staffer, not me, that runs the TAP application process in regard to like maybe tailoring the application to be a bit more broad, or maybe to even be a bit more specific in areas. But it's more of a conversation than anything else at this moment. But I just wanted to put that out there, and also like ask the follow-up question in regard to like exactly what was in the application submittal letter. So that was it. I just wanted to put that out there, that it's a conversation. And also, if there's no questions, no follow-up questions from what I just said, I can move on to what Rona and I have to report.
Okay, well, I think the only follow-up question is if you can provide Shannon with who should be having these conversations with us, because last year, Hannah Lake called several times. She called about 6 times and didn't have a conversation.
Yeah, I reached out to 2 people, the 2 people that you told me to, but I didn't hear back from them, or I haven't heard back from them yet, so I'm not sure. I forget their names. I know their last names. Yeah.
Gloria and Javier.
Yeah.
Okay, it was probably this. Okay. So I would say just go and look out in your emails, and there may be slow down to like the holidays because of the holiday season and whatnot. And I'm so sorry that it did, like there was calls and no one got back to you. That is an experience that no one should have. And I just want to make sure I put that out there for the internet universe, that that's not an experience that anyone should have. And I think that is all the conversation I have in regard to tax applications at this moment, depending on what I'm permitted to say and not to say. I'm walking a fine line as best I can. I guess I shall report on our movement in regard to our one of our events, our event in regard to like the color of law and how we're expanding it this year. We hope to expand it this year and move and I guess move a little bit differently, if you will, or just like not necessarily be controversial, but like take the next step in our color of law book discussion. So Ronan and I wanted to have a discussion with Racial Justice Somerville, and because we want to partner with them, because our mission totally fits in with their mission, especially in regards to this event. And we can only work together and make this event go a little bit deeper. We have reached out to them and we received a response, I want to say last weekish, maybe. And we had specifically reached out to the community engagement specialist there and to the director there. And we hope to have a meeting with them sometime soon in the near future, sometime this month, and we will report our findings from that meeting. But it's going to be a discussion on how we partner with each other, and how we could possibly kind of co-host this event together as two organizations working for Somerville. Rona, I give the floor to you in case I forgot to say anything.
Okay, so I was hoping to have this meeting before I have to have the conversation with the adult services director at the library, but I think we need to punt and pick some dates that work for us, because if we don't, we're going to end up with the only time available is the middle of a Sunday afternoon when 15 gazillion other things are happening on a beautiful April day. And that's why we get 6 people coming. So I think we should pull out calendars or have general nights that are better for the commissioners to come. And then I'll talk to Carrie before we meet with Racial Justice. And then I'll have the available dates. But are there weeknights that are no good for Janine and Patrice?
No, I was going to say that maybe a Thursday night could be a good night, because we might be where SHA works late based on the city works late as well. So we may be able to, get people to come during work hours as part of their work. I'm just throwing that out, but there are none that are not good for me.
Okay, is Thursday good for you, Patrice? Okay. All right, I'll tell Carrie that's the preference.
Rona, hold on one second, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Shannon wants to have some input here.
Oh, I just wanted to note that Patriots Day, it's on a Monday, but it's going to be on the 21st. So just when we're thinking about if people are going to be out of town for the long weekend, just to put that out there.
Patriots Day, 21st. Okay, got it.
And Rona, you probably already considered this, but usually Passover is in April.
I think it's not this year. I know we did this already and I'll have to do it again. And again, I don't have a computer, so I can't just look it up. But I will check that.
I can check it really quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's from sunset on Saturday night, the 12th of April, through nightfall on Sunday, the 20th. So, and you know, as you know, the Seders, the festive meals would be on the first 2 nights. So that would be the weekend of Saturday night and Sunday night, 12th and 13th.
Okay.
And then, you know, other days, evening events on other days would be more eligible.
Yeah, although we won't be able to serve food. Well, we can serve food, but I won't do it.
Right. It will just be, you know, it will not be the food. You either have to choose stuff that everybody can eat or know that some people won't. And yeah, so but though, okay. So I just wanted to bring that in. So what else should we talk about in relation to Fair Housing Month events?
I think we already made a whole list of wanna do events last time. But again, I can't read my notes, so I don't know.
So the subcommittee will get back to us about that.
Yeah, I guess. Yes, subcommittee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Many thanks from the rest of us. Other educational things we do. I know we've talked about this before, tabling at various events. Usually that happens mostly in the good weather part of the year, but have people added to the spreadsheet that Lisa started? So I want to ask again, if you can take a minute, you know, to look what's up there. You know, they're probably the ones that come to mind the quickest. But I'm going to encourage people to think out of the box and just add anything. I mean, I probably we already have National Night Out up there, for instance, but you know, we've done other kinds of festivals in previous years. So just put anything on there that you think we might be able to set up a table and talk to people in, and then we can always, you know, we're not obviously not going to do all of, you know, but let's make the most expansive list we can and see what we can do. Now, and online education and outreach, we've already talked about Facebook. We've talked about using the city's channels for Fair Housing Month. And I think in the past that we've, some of the commissioners made videos introducing ourselves. Are those still up on the website?
Let me look 1 second.
Yeah, last time I looked, they were. We've also collaborated on a tenant union handbook, which is now up on the city site someplace, and a tenants' rights handbook, which is up on the city site someplace.
And Lisa, please jump in.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the spreadsheet. First of all, I just want to make sure that everybody at least got the link and hopefully it worked. And we're still getting used to the OneDrive opposed to Google and the other things. So, but as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at, it reminded me of a conversation that we may have had at one of our meetings about presenting at the fair at the housing authority or with the housing authority when vouchers are being voucher distributions. I just want to put a little reminder there to see if that is something to do, and if it's an aha moment, maybe we should have Shannon reach out to the housing authority, or you know, how should we go? if the
Um,
commissions are good with that.
I'm kind of ruminating on that because there isn't one time that they're distributed. So they have, I mean, maybe what you could do is reach out to the Section 8 manager to see, because they have voucher, I think, orientations.
Yep.
I don't know how often, but people get vouchers all the time. So I would reach out, and his name is, I can send it to Shannon too. His name is David Hospitalis, and he would know when those orientations happen. So
Yeah.
he could, take a look at that and see whether it made sense to do that. I do think that fair housing is in the packet, like the information about it is in the packet that that all the new voucher recipients receive. However, we could, I don't see why we couldn't also make a quick presentation if we wanted to do that.
Yeah. I know that they get a lot of information. I've sat through
Yeah.
them in the past with clients. However, you get a lot of information and sometimes it's not really there. It's in writing, it's in there. It may not hurt to have somebody actually be there to sort of verbalize. And I know that at one time the housing authority staff actually did go through, key things to think of.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you have a different voice, instead of having the
That
one
makes sense.
person going through the whole entire thing,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of things that we can try to keep doing and to make sure that the message is getting out there and that people hear it. That there's an aha moment as best as we can have.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. It can't hurt to, even if it's once a quarter, making those, presentations. I honestly don't know how often they have those orientations. I think it might be once a month. I don't, because that changes whenever vouchers become available. So, but yeah, I can send that to, I can send the contact person to Shannon to follow up.
Shannon, why don't you jump in and then we'll go back to Commissioner Rona.
I was just gonna ask, you may not know, but how many people are generally in these orientations?
I haven't a clue, to be honest with you. I think
I can reach out.
Yeah, I think it's not. I don't think the number is very large because it like I said, I believe they're done every month, so it really depends on how many vouchers become available and how many are given out. So, but
Yeah,
David
I'll
would have a
definitely
better
reach out
sense
to
of that,
him.
sure.
And I have like a 15-20 minute presentation
Oh, that'd be great.
already that we could use if he wants to.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll reach out and ask.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you his contact. He's a really good guy, so I think
Rona, over to you.
Yeah, I was thinking that Shannon already has a presentation, that's great. But I was thinking that a one-sheeter that has a script that basically says, I'm calling, and what do you do when people say, do you have a voucher? And how you get somebody to if somebody starts hemming and hawing, how to ask, is that a problem for you? And see if you can get them to say, yes, it is a problem for me. And then tell people you don't fight, you hang up and you call Shannon. And have,
Now
this
you're
is the
talking
information you have.
Could I clarify, please?
Yes.
You're talking about when they're using vouchers for the general housing market.
Correct.
So that's what vouchers are for. Yeah,
That's what vouchers are always for the open market.
Yeah.
Okay. Just because not everybody, some people would
Yeah.
confuse that because they hear Somerville Housing Authority and then they
Right.
think public housing. Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
No, Section 8 vouchers are subsidies to help people compete in the open real estate market. And sometimes landlords will say they don't take Section 8, which is illegal
It's
in
very
Massachusetts.
common, actually, unfortunately. Yeah.
But if you start fighting with them, it doesn't get you anywhere. But if you get the landlord's name and the property address, then you have the wherewithal to either go to Suffolk or go to MCAD.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we could do that in a very simple way. And if they hear it with a different voice, and we could even practice. I can say, well, I'm a landlord and I don't take Section 8. And And then we can have the whole group practice and just say, I understand, thank you, click. And that way they get it in a visceral way. There's, it's not their fight to fight. In
Right.
that moment, their job is to get a place to live. And we'll help them fight after that moment. And does everybody agree with that tactic? Which is the other thing. That's what I would recommend.
I think it's a good tactic. I think, yeah, it would be worth, like really, I can tell you that just from the people that come to me when they are having trouble finding something, is that even though, I tell them about these options that they have to pursue, they're often still afraid or skeptical of any kind of authority or authority figure being involved because they fear retribution, even though that probably wouldn't happen. So there should be some way for us to, if we can, to reassure that, like, when they launch those types of, if they do say thank you very much and hang up and then call Shannon, that that is their prerogative, and it's also that they're protected somehow. So yeah, that would be my only addition to that, is just to make sure that it's clear to them.
Patrice and then Lisa.
Okay, so I kind of want to add to that. So the verbal is correspondence guidance would be great, but also what about emails? Is there like a template also for an email? Because sometimes, like, you're not getting a response and you may just have to email like over and over again until like you get a response. Like, is there like an email template, something written, maybe a thing that could also be translated too? I mean, just not verbal, but also written too, to try to kind of tease out what's happening.
Good question.
Thank you. Lisa, you were either going to add more information or respond to a question. I'm not sure.
Thank you. I was going to say, great ideas, both Commissioner Rona and Commissioner Patrice. I love the fact of the templates and the scripts, huge piece. I also wanted to just add in a piece to kind of go on to Commissioner Janine, is, not only letting them know about the fair, that they can't, that they're protected, but the benefits of filing a complaint. I do think that, unfortunately, when people are so high stressed on just trying to get an apartment, they're not looking at the other pieces of the puzzle.
Right.
And talking about, if that time clock, please somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since I've done housing search. But if that time clock on that Section 8 is about to expire and you have a complaint, you've got a complaint in with MCAD or HUD, that time clock stops. So there's the benefit. There's also financial benefits. Those are probably rare, but there could be that, as well as education. If depending on who and what and whether or not they were determined that they were in fact breaking the law one way or another, that MCAD or HUD could make the property manager, real estate agent, and or homeowner go through some fair housing training. So there's a lot of different benefits, as well as they can get the apartment. But usually, based on my experience, people are like, I don't want to live somewhere where they don't want me to live.
Right.
But at the same time, these are the different things. So not only are we talking about how to go about finding and responding to these questions or apartment rentals, what are the benefits? Because a lot of people is, what's in it for me? So it's sort of kind of walking that fine line.
Thank you. And I think a lot of people are skeptical, like they won't do anything about my complaint. But if you can say, well, immediately it will stop the clock, or, you know, something like that. All right, so Commissioners Rona and Janine, and then we'll check and see if there's more to be said on this subject.
Yeah, from what Lisa just said, I just took a couple of notes. I think that can still be on that one pager of, you know, why bother? And my sense is job one is to get an apartment. So you keep looking for your apartment. But job two is to make it easier for your next time and for anybody in the future. And the clock stops, which is a great piece of information.
Mhm.
And the third benefit is if landlords know there's testers out, they might change their tune. So Janine can go.
Yeah, thanks. And just to add to that, I mean, if we wanted to just be like, for me, it's I'm always kind of, I don't know, dumbfounded when landlords are pose resistance, because it's guaranteed payment, you know, depending. So like, to me, I don't know if there's a way to word that some way so that landlords also know that, like, okay, you may be taking a risk, but generally you're not, and you're getting the benefit of knowing that a portion, sometimes a very large portion of the rent you charge is going to be paid. I'm baffled by you know, landlord resistance, but you know, that's because of where I work and I'm sure the contact that I have. But you know, it might be worth, you know, educating folks in some way about that, if there's a way. I don't know.
Well,
So I'm going to hold on. I'm going to call on myself. So I'm going to say first, the Office of Housing Stability does a fair amount to support landlords who are good models this way, and provide assistance to people who might need help. So that's important to know. Then I have a couple of questions about other opportunities for education. Are we still making presentations at the first-time home buyers meetings that Somerville Community Corporation runs?
Yeah, those are monthly.
So, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's one of the things that we continue to do, which I assume was probably in the annual report as well. Well, my other question is, I see all these announcements from the city about you know, applications for inclusionary housing, and that there are information meetings about those. Are those in-person meetings? And you know, would those be another possibility for spreading the word about fair housing? Just a thought. I never thought of it before.
So inclusionary, we don't have information sessions anymore. We have open office hours instead, and generally people come to those if they want to know more about the unit, and then they also go to the open house events, but we don't have like specific information sessions anymore.
Can you say a little bit more about what's an open house event?
Like if they go to see the unit in person, if it's a home ownership unit. If it's rental, then they don't necessarily, they don't see it before.
Lisa, and then Janine.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, and when we are doing open houses, and or at the time the information center information meetings, those really weren't hosted by the city of Somerville. Those were really the developers doing those. But to take that and just move it a little bit further, Dennis, maybe there's something that we can give a word, you know, try and advertise like a fair housing, a know your rights fair housing meeting, very similar to that piece, and we can introduce it, see how it goes on a Zoom, doing it on a Zoom, very similar to our IZ open office hours. But maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more and then report that back at our next meeting.
Well, this seems to have been a very fruitful discussion. Rona,
Yeah, just on our, and again, I don't have the list in front of me, But I'm pretty sure on our list of things we want to do for Fair Housing Month, beyond the book discussion, was a landlord meeting and a tenant meeting. So we can refine what we want to talk about once we have the dates and stuff.
Okay. So, any further thoughts about fair housing education as such?
Nope. I have one very quick process question, which is that if I write something up, the process would be I'd write it up, send it to Shannon, and then Shannon would send it to everybody, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's what I'll do.
So one other item that we have under the general heading of education, this is something that Patrice has spearheaded in the past, and I've also worked on during city election years, which are the odd numbered years. The last couple, we've sent questionnaires out to candidates. The first time around, it was to all the candidates the same questions to elicit their thoughts about specific fair housing issues. The second time, we sent that questionnaire to new candidates and kind of follow-up questions to incumbents. And so I have this on the agenda as, something that I guess we wanted to talk about, since it is now an election year. From past experience, it's going to be April before we know,
Sure.
at least April, before we know who the candidates are going to be. And, am I right about that, or is it even later?
I called the elections commission today. The person working there didn't know when it will be this year. But we looked at last year's, or not last year, but 2 years ago's dates. So their nomination papers were available in May. The last day to submit was in June, and then the preliminary elections in September, and obviously the actual elections in November. So we would know probably by July or late June who is running.
So in terms of timing, yeah, there wouldn't be that much point in sending it out before we know who the candidates are. So it seems like once we're done with April as Fair Housing Month, if we decide we want to do this again, then after that May or early June deadline for people submitting their nomination papers, well, I'm gonna hypothesize here that whoever's working on this probably wants to have the questions ready to go, and then once we know who's running, send them out to them and give them a deadline that's considerably earlier than when we actually want to make sure that we get the responses back, because sometimes people need to be nudged a little bit. But yeah, that early September primary generally is the most important election in Somerville. So we've been successful in the past in getting the Somerville Times and a couple of other local venues to publish the answers. And they've also gone up on the city's website. And I want to say, of course, we're not endorsing any candidates or taking any partisan positions on this. This is basically for voter information, so they'll know what the positions of the candidates are, and also to stimulate the candidates to think about fair housing issues, which some first-time candidates have not. So that's the topic. People have any comments, suggestions, questions? Rona.
Yeah, I'm feeling like the template queen this particular meeting. Patrice and Dennis have been doing these, I guess this will probably be the third time, maybe even the fourth time.
Third, I think.
And I think you probably have figured out which emails are more effective and which emails are less effective. And we probably should have that filed someplace. so that we can sort of quasi automate this a little bit, because I know that it gets tedious when people aren't answering, and, you know, making sure we want to be very fair and not just, you know, the people who don't already know us, who might respond more slowly, or we don't want to disadvantage them and things like that. So I'm wondering whether we can put a how to do this kind of thing together, so that, you know, when it's 2031 and it's time to do this and none of us are on the commission, somebody else doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. So again, I'm retired, so I'm thinking templates and making things easy.
Rona, that is a good idea. And I wonder if there is also in that template, if it could be listed, the media we reach out to, because those will usually never change. The candidate emails will change here and there. But in the template, of course, we need to list like every district, and if they're running, like it'd be like a how-to guide. And also I want to add, like, I wonder if it's possible to change one of the two of the questions. I mean, because we're going a little bit, I want to say a little bit deeper in regards to the fair housing events that we're having. I wonder if we can kind of do the same with the candidate questions. Just like maybe have like one question that is not necessarily controversial, but maybe a little bit controversial. I don't know what that looks like, but it'll be a tough one to kind of like have candidates dig a little bit deeper, not show bias, of course, but like something that'll make someone have to like pause and kind of like think about it a little bit more, like a more nuanced question. Don't know what that question looks like, but I wonder if we can ask at least one nuanced question to kind of like dig a little deeper.
So let's see. I guess I will volunteer to send some of the existing the questions and lists and so forth that we already have. I'll send them to Shannon to be distributed to the commissioners at large. And, you know, we'll keep this item on the agenda and talk about it again, you know, with more details in front of us. I'll just say, in response to some of the concerns that people have raised, I know that 4 years ago, the first time we did this, one of the candidates was also the publisher of a local newspaper. And when I approached the candidate as publisher to say would you be willing to distribute to publish the answers to these questions, the candidate said, why would I do that when you never let me answer the question? And I was able to forward repeated emails that we had sent asking the candidate to answer the question to which we had not received a response. So, you know, there was also one of the incumbents now is actually somebody who could not answer them, you know, missed the deadline to the first time around, was elected. And so when they were running for re-election, we sent them the full list of questions as if it was their first time out, to get both to spur their thinking and to get them on record.
Yeah. And the answers are on the website.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You can look on the Fair Housing Commission website and scroll down a little bit and find it.
And see what your city councilor said.
Right. We asked the candidates for mayor and for city council. We didn't go to school committee or, you know, that kind of thing. All right. So any other thoughts about the Fair Housing questionnaire? probably
Way that
more
I
to
like
be-
Patrice's idea of thinking of something, some way to like make it, I don't know, not controversial, but a little more substantive in terms of like having people think. Yeah,
Well,
I like
I
that.
mean, it already makes it so people have to think about their life experience and what housing oppression or easy road they had. And that's already a little controversial, but it's necessary. So let's see if we can dig a little deeper. I'm with Patrice on this.
And I just had a thought. Remember that study that came out? Oh my goodness, I forgot who did it. But it was the report of fair housing discrimination, and I think it was Massachusetts or Boston. I forgot who put it on. I think it was from the Bar Foundation that put it out, I believe. And there was a correlation where there was a they had conclusions there that I think we can infer questions from. I have a question in mind that has to do with like Section 8 vouchers and the comorbidity factors around it. So I'm thinking about something already. So yes, I have something in mind.
Good.
But
Great.
2 thumbs up.
Exactly.
All right, but that does not let the other commissioners off the hook. The process will be, I will send materials from last time to Shannon, who will share them all around. And then you all have homework to think about either how to modify the questions and the emails that we've already done, and or add the kind of probing question that Patrice has been talking about that you all have agreed to.
Awesome.
Everybody on board with that? Yes? Okay. So, announcements.
Happy New Year.
Happy 2025. Rona mentioned this personally before the meeting, but you know, in line with mentioning other celebratory occasions, I think Rona's retirement as a real estate broker deserves some applause.
Thank you.
Kudos.
Any other birthdays or life events?
I can't recall if I think I may have said something about this at the last meeting, but in 2024 we had 2 successful Section 8 for home ownership. One successful Section 8 for home ownership purchase, and one home purchase without the assistance from Section 8. And then those were fairly recent. And then earlier in the year, we had several others who had also bought without Section 8 assistance. So it was a good year for home purchasing for lower income folks, from my perspective anyway. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you to the commissioners. Thank you very much to the staff. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 30th. So that would be 4 weeks from today, also at 3 p.m., also on Zoom.
So this is officially the December meeting?
Well, we didn't have a late November meeting. We had an early December meeting. We didn't have a late December meeting. This is our early January meeting. And then we'll get back onto our last Thursday of the month schedule after that. And I believe, Shannon, did we discuss that list of dates at the previous meeting?
Yeah, I can send that out again too.
Sure, just so it's top of mind for people.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Unless there's anything else people want to talk about, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
And
I'll agree, and it's 4:17 for the minutes.
right, it's unanimously agreed to adjourn, and thank you all, and see you later in January.
You bet. Take care.
Okay.